hundreds of different international conventions, and most countries consider it their international obligation to ratify as many as possible. Jerseyman Mike Dunn has written thousands of letters in his 20-year campaign to get the Channel Islands to take human rights more seriously.
For the most part, we don't know what actually is going on. I mean, even the governments of the Channel Islands, Jersey specifically, have in recent months stated that they having to change laws because they are in contravention of various human rights conventions or treaties. Things like phone tapping and mental health law, homosexuality, the Camp Birch people, all because if they did do that, they would be in contravention. Now, of course, these conventions, virtually all of them, are not published locally, so nobody knows what is actually applicable here.
I think it's a practical issue that over the years the islands have been asked whether they wish to adhere to and comply with conventions. Many times we have said yes, and occasionally we've said we've been unable fully to implement the provisions of the conventions, and we've referred this back to the UK, and very often we're not told whether the conventions have indeed been ratified. And therefore it's really been a practical problem of collecting details of all these conventions. I mean, they're probably run into hundreds.
Despite the difficulties, the Jersey authorities now plan to draw up a list of the different conventions that apply locally. Mike Dunn has also criticised the states for contravening many conventions that they have signed.
As it stands, or as it seems to me, that the Jersey and Guernsey have both entered into international treaties which they seem to be in violation of. And in fact, the Housing Committee itself has acknowledged in Jersey, not in Guernsey, they have acknowledged in Jersey that by reintroducing the 20-year qualification period, they are overcoming the problem of that they would have been in violation of the Human Rights Convention.
What would you have? The laws changed, or just leave out certain parts of the conventions?
Well, ultimately, the laws have to be changed because it is part of an international movement. I mean, this is the whole point of human rights recognition internationally, that similar standards shall prevail throughout the world. This is how the thing becomes effective. This is how it will be effective in countries which have terrible problems. By countries like Jersey, which at the moment, and Guernsey, which are fortunate not having great problems.
I think in strict theory one might show that in some cases we are not complying strictly with the provisions of those conventions, but we have always explained that there are special reasons that affect the island. The whole structure of the island, the economy of the island, the labour patterns and so on are somewhat different to other places, and I think one's got to look at the things in the wider context. For example, in the case of discrimination against women, it has been argued that there are certain special cases or certain circumstances that apply to Jersey which don't permit the islands to implement those conventions in full, and therefore we have always explained, and it has generally been accepted, that the exemptions be applied to the islands. Now, it may come, the time may well come, when, for example, somebody could take a case to one of the courts of human rights, and then pressure could be brought by the United Kingdom, who are the signatories to the conventions, requiring the islands to either implement or repeal legislation which contravenes generally accepted principles of those human rights, in which case we will probably have to react to those pressures.
Unless and until that happens for many of the island's laws, Mike Dunn will continue his campaign for local recognition of rights.